And Beki, I'm going to ask you to come on camera because we are going to hear from our next expedition leader, one of our co-leaders for the next expedition live. And
Hello.
so hi Beki, I know it is a very inconvenient time for you, so thank you for joining us tonight.
Not a problem.
But our next expedition up is Stories We Tell: Rewriting the Script Through the Vision of a Black Mamba. This would be a filmmaking expedition to flip the script by asking the following question: what if the most powerful stories are those communities tell about themselves? In Hluvukani, South Africa, and I might not have gotten that right, but I'm going to keep trying, co-expedition leader Nkateko Letti Mzimba, a filmmaker and a member of the Black Mambas, Africa's first all-female anti-poaching unit, teams up with acclaimed producer and director Beki Henderson to create the first documentary about Hluvukani made by a member of that community. Uh, Ngate's lens reveals a future where conservation and community are inseparable. We have Beki here tonight at a very early hour in the morning for her. Nkate is unable to join live, also for a very good reason, which Beki will explain, but we will actually still be hearing from both of them tonight. So, Beki, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And yes, thank you both of you for this incredible opportunity. And thank you everyone who's listening here tonight. Do bear with me. It is 2:30 a.m. here in the UK, and I'm not that tech savvy, so please forgive any mistakes. But let's give it a go.
We'll let you know if the screen share works, Beki, and then we'll turn off our
Thank
cameras
you.
so the audience can give you their full attention. And it looks great to
It looks
me.
wonderful.
So we will turn the
Amazing.
videos off.
Yep.
Brilliant. Well, thank you. So, what if the most powerful stories are those that the communities tell about themselves? Here we go. So, for decades, stories of remote communities across the world have been told through the eyes of outsiders. And I personally, myself, have spent a decade of my career as a TV producer and director telling other people's stories. Now, over time, I realised that the most powerful moments are those ones that aren't always filmed. These stories often get buried in commercial agendas. I've battled with broadcasters, production companies who try to shape stories into something that they're not, all to fit what they think will appeal to an audience or sell a show. But here's the thing. As long as we are the ones telling the stories, they will always be seen through our eyes. So this is the urgent question that sits at the heart of the Stories We Tell project. Here we go. So Stories We Tell, it's a global series. It's not just an individual project. So I just want to make that very clear. It's part of what should be a bigger series. And in a world that's saturated with curated content, outsider narratives, Stories We Tell aims to cut through noise with something really rare: truth. Audiences crave real life, not polished narratives or parachuted perspectives, something really honest. This isn't about outsiders shaping someone else's story to fit their lens. So the backdrop of each individual film within the project, it may be conservation, it may be community, it may be survival, but it's not my narrative to decide. The project belongs to the protagonist. It's their voices, their choices, and their lived experiences. So that takes me to Nkate. So the first film within the Stories We Tell series, I'm really proud to be collaborating with co-expedition leader Nkate from South Africa. And together we are doing a filmmaking expedition that explores the ways in how we tell stories. Nkate's film will stand alone, but it marks the beginning, the first step in a global series amplifying powerful stories of underrepresented communities. So while the overarching Stories We Tell project question might be, what if the most powerful stories are those that the community tells? The first film of Nkate's is her own. And it isn't about giving her a voice, because as you'll see later, she already has one and it is pretty powerful. Instead, it's about creating space for her and letting her tell her story on her terms. So within this project, Nkateko will pose her own question. And what's really, really exciting for me, at least, about this project is that we don't even know what that question's going to be yet. It's only during that process of filmmaking that she's going to decide what she wants to tell. So here we go. Nkateko. She's not here tonight, as it seems to be with everybody. Internet isn't always great. It maybe, I think it's 3 a.m, 3:30 right now in South Africa, but it's not because she's still in bed. Nkateko lives in a really remote community, and when she's not on patrol, she is back at her home village and there's no Wi-Fi, little cell data, and at 3 a.m, electricity isn't a guarantee. So in her absence, I've created a little video with her to tell you a little bit more about her. But let me just introduce her. Nkateko is a woman who walks two worlds at once: the wild front lines of the South Africa's Great Kruger and the heart of her village. Nkateko's childhood, it was shaped by the absence of her father, but she had a resilient single mother and survived on social grants like many people within her community. So growing up, she saw how poverty and unemployment saw people to fall to the law of poaching. But Nkateko wanted a different path for herself. And 10 years ago, she made a life-changing decision to train to become one of Africa's first all-female anti-poaching units, the Black Mambas. So this video that I've got for you here, it's a short video that we've pulled together with existing footage of Nkateko, paired up with voice notes and WhatsApp videos to give you an idea of who she is. Now, this footage is not part of our film. And actually, a lot of this was shot by an overseas filmmaker. He was there to make a short branded content piece about his experience with the Black Mambas for a promotion for a camera company. And so, as with many films about communities, Nkateko hasn't even seen this film herself, never mind being credited in it. She shared her stories in interviews and reports, but she's never had the chance to tell it herself. So I'll let you hear from Nkateko now.
My name is Nkateko Mzimba. I live at Hluvukani village. I am a Black Mamba anti-poaching unit. My job here, I'm a sergeant and a driver ever since 2014. I started loving nature the time I was at school. This is a big 5 area where there is lion, elephant, and other animals. So if maybe you walk alone, if you encounter with lion or elephant, you won't be safe because they will come after you. But if at least you are a group here, they will be scared like, this is another team, I cannot go. Our main purpose, we are not here to kill. So having a gun, yeah, it's good because it's part of our safety, but we are not here to create even the fight or the war with the poachers, because so many rangers out there, they've been killed by poachers because of the weapon. So we are not here to create fight or war. We are here to prevent, to stop. We don't want to live in a village where there is lots of orphans because of us. We don't want to live in a place where there is lots of widows because of us. We don't want to create a conflict or enemies in the community. So that is why we involve community when it comes to conservation, so that they can understand. We are fighting this badly by educating them. So if they see us as an example of protecting the wildlife, not carry any weapon, it's the biggest solution, it's the biggest investment to them, because they grew up knowing that we must conserve nature, because nature conserves us. In this project, we are the leaders. I'm the leader, she's the leader, she's the leader, she's the leader too. I'm leading here. I'm also a leader in the community. So which makes me proud. And I hope I'm inspiring even women out there that whatever they're doing, they must be proud of it and they can make it. Even it's big five without guns, I'm proud of it.
Okay. I mean, Nkate is an incredible woman. And the point I want to make is that this story is not just about her courage. It is about her vision. She is reshaping how the world views wildlife conservation. So through her, we see a woman who refuses to separate the fate of community with the fate of wildlife. And as the Hidden Compass team said before, this film is her first opportunity to turn the camera around and take control of her own narrative.
My name is...
Sorry, told you there'd be a tech issue. Right, a little bit about me, I'll keep that quick. I'm a freelance BAFTA-nominated TV producer-director with over a decade of experience filming stories in some of the most remote parts of the planet. My work has taken me from the icy wildernesses of Antarctica and the depths of the Amazon, always with a camera in my hand. My career, I've made some of the high-profile TV series for Nat Geo, Disney Plus, BBC. You'll see a lot of the credits on the bottom of this slide. I've worked with some of British iconic adventurers, Steve Backshall, Ben Fogle, Aldo Kane. I don't know how many of you'll know if you're not from the UK, but I've also worked with A-list stars like Will Smith, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Meryl Streep, all with the hope of translating their bold stories into global narratives. But aside from that, I've spent a lot of time immersed within remote communities, whether that's months living alongside hunter-gatherer Benjeli in the Congolese jungles, or winters with the Layak community in the high-altitude mountains of Bhutan. And these experiences have shaped my storytelling approach with nuance and respect. And I am deeply committed to ethical storytelling, where storytelling should take a form of an exchange and not an extraction. So I'm passionate about changing who holds the camera and the narrative after years of battling with broadcasters and production companies. So though we have 2 expedition leaders, we also have a support team. Now, just to let you know, this is Nkate's team that she's going to form. So here we just have an example of people we're discussing with right now. Notably, Hardus, a wildlife camera operator who actually is from Pretoria, 6 hours drive from Nkate's village. He actually started his career as well as an anti-poaching ranger in the same national park and is now an accomplished wildlife cinematographer working for Disney and BBC. So the hope is that he can create some regular support. So as we go through the different phases of the project, if there's something we can't deal with remotely, he'll be on the ground to support and also help with edits and such. We've also got Colette there. Colette has been, she's a founding member of the Black Mambas, and now has become the PR agent, I guess, what do you call it, the PR liaison, when crews do want to speak to her, whether that's news or reports. So I know for a fact she's very keen to get involved, as with everyone else in Nkate's network. So the project. So firstly, it's important to understand that Nkate isn't the subject of the film. We're not making a film about Nkate. She is the creative leader, and if she wishes, she can make it about herself. So to give you a little background on her world, so you can understand a little bit more. She lives on the edge of South Africa's national park, Great Kruger, where it's one of the most contested conservation frontiers. And that's where she was born, but also the Black Mambas emerged. And the Black Mambas, their mothers, daughters, wives within the community with an innate drive to protect. So not only are they fighting on the front line, they're trying to change attitudes from within their own community with the hope to stop would-be poachers before they even pick up the gun. But this film isn't about showing her heroism. It's about Nkate having the chance to tell her story in her way. So she may want to tell the dangers, what she faces in a long, punishing day in the bush, or she might want to talk about her work within the community. As you've seen already, she has a voice, and this project is about making space for her to use it. As I said before, the core idea of this project is to go through that full filmmaking process from start to finish. So we don't know what the narrative's going to be, and Nkate doesn't know what the narrative's going to be, and that is the most exciting part of it. But after a bit of discussion, we've just thrown about a few ideas of what she might want to focus on, and Nkate came up with this list. So life on the most contested wildlife front lines, leadership in a male-dominated world, living among the threat, changing community attitude from within, the cost of courage, both emotional and physical, or the future of conservation. These are all different ideas she's currently thinking about. So what are you going to see? We're going to create a short documentary which is rooted in collaboration. So I'll be supporting Nkate as she shapes her film that reflects her views and her values. So while she brings along the personal and lived experience, I'll bring the craft and the reach to help her story resonate beyond her immediate world. So we're both essential and neither complete without one another. And the hope is that this finished film will be submitted to international festivals where Nkate can be globally recognised as a lead creator. We'll also develop a range of supporting content, feature articles, behind the scenes material, and a tailored social media strategy. It's all about the materials exploring what it means to shift the traditional filmmaking structure towards a shared authorship. And finally, we'll release a podcast episode focused on the behind the scenes journey. So the goal is to inspire broader conversation about community-led storytelling. How are we going to do it? So phase one, I'm going to head out to South Africa for around a month where I'll work with Nkate and any team that she selects. And during this time, we'll do some hands-on workshops covering camera operations, sound recording, shot composition. We'll also sort of dig into the process of identifying storylines, key characters, and start capturing some of that footage. So this initial period is to serve as a chance to build trust, but also technical competency to enable Nkate to continue for the rest of the year. We'll be leaving film equipment with her to supplement the equipment she already has, and she can continue into phase two. So phase two, she'll continue to film independently with regular support through check-ins via Zoom and technical support if needed from Pretoria or Johannesburg. We'll start to review footage together remotely, and then the plan will be to get Nkate into the edit. Phase three is near completion. I'll head back out to one more time to South Africa, and this will be focused on getting final filmed materials, but also the most exciting part. It'll conclude in a screening of the film to the village. They will be the first people to watch this film. When we look at it, often films never make it back to the community. So to get to respond to the film as firsthand will be incredible. And this will be filmed as part of the process. Timeline. I'm not going to go and explain this. You can see it on your screens. Hopefully it's very clearly showing the different phases. But what I want Hidden Compass Alliance members to know is that we want you to experience a real authentic window into the collaborative filmmaking process. So seeing Nkate and a community in action as they shape their stories. This will be short video updates, photo diaries, production notes, reflections, and community responses. Now, with every project, we envisage that there will be big rewards and also some challenges. So what we really hope to take away from this is empowerment and ownership for Nkate to feel like she can reclaim a narrative control. Community engagement, as she says, to have a filmmaker as one of her own behind the camera will inspire young people to believe that their story matters. We hope to leave a lasting legacy for Nkateko to continue making films and then teach others as she goes along. Now, challenges. This one I actually find really interesting, and I think it will be a fascinating process for both of us to go through, and that will be unlearning external narratives. So one of the key challenges will be supporting Nkateko to shift from telling the story she thinks the outside world wants to hear. And we'll try to do that by shifting the focus from performance to personal perspective. We imagine that collaborative authorship is going to be a really interesting balance of creative ownership on mentoring and facilitating. But it's something we'll do with regular check-ins and maintaining communication throughout the process. And finally, remote support. Always going to be an issue when you're different sides of the planet. But we have plans. We're going to continue with remote check-ins, but we also have on-ground support. So she'll never be left on her own for the process. So finally, as I said, while this film stands on its own, it represents what I hope is just the beginning and the vision to build a larger series. So while Nkateko tells her own story, she doesn't just speak for herself. She is opening the doors to others to do the same. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen. As Sabine said, the presentation is online as well. And I just want to say, by voting for this project, you're not just voting to fund a film. This project is more than a film, and I really, really hope that it's a step towards rewriting the rules of storytelling through the voices of those who live it. So thank you very much for taking time to listen.
Thank you so much, Becky. I'm going to switch the views around, and we're open for questions. I think I already see one in the Q&A, which is great, and we will get to it in a second. I want to actually kick us off by asking the first question. I'm going to switch us back into a little different view so that we can have this conversation. But you've worked with some really big media companies. We saw, you mentioned a few. We saw them on that slide, right? Apple TV, Nat Geo.
Yeah.
What is it about this project that has you pursuing outside of those channels? Pursuing funding and also just pursuing this project outside of those channels and contacts.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think it has to be a commercial agenda. We'll be honest, I was actually having this conversation the other day. Television is entertainment. It's an industry. It's not necessarily always journalism. And I think that's where that fine line is. I've been sat in the middle of kind of Ecuador in the Yasuni listening to Warani stories, which are incredible, but they're not necessarily going to be able to tap into the entertainment value for a mainstream audience, and that we end up kind of toying that line with exploitation if we do try to do that. And so for me, I think the root of this project is about handing over that narrative, and we don't know what we're going to get. So we can't make promises to a big company. We can't write scripts. We can't do any of that. And that's what, in my mind, is real journalism. And that's why Hidden Compasses grant was the perfect platform for this to be pushed forward.
I'm going to jump in by throwing out a question in the Q&A box. So those watching, if you want to submit your questions, now's the perfect time. And I'll start with one that Margaret has sent, which is, Becky, how did you choose which of the Black Mambas to work with?
Ooh, interesting question. There is an incredible bunch of people in that community. Nkateko has had a voice, and she has a lot to say. And I think for her passion to tell her story is what drove me to work with Nkateko. But I will say that all of them will have their own way of telling their story. Nkateko is heavily involved in the community. I don't want to say more or less so than the others, but I think through that, she is really this person who sits in two worlds. And I think that's a really exciting place to be.
I'll jump in also with a question. You mentioned that not knowing the story Nkate will tell is one of the most exciting parts of this project for you. You sort of mentioned that this is one of the reasons why you turned to Hidden Compass rather than going to other outlets that might have very specific goals in mind before even setting out. But what would you say to an ally who's thinking about voting for your team but is unfamiliar with and maybe nervous about greenlighting a project before we even know what the story is?
I would understand that, because in the same way you said, Nat Geo, all these other big broadcasters maybe want a level of certainty. And I think what we can say is certain is that Nkate is a storyteller who has an important story to tell. And I know that from whatever narrative she chooses, it will be something of relevance. And I think that for me would be enough, I would say, to greenlight it. But if you want to dig into it further, the whole project is about being authentic. It's about being raw and honest and true. And if we sit and pre-write scripts or pre-write ideas, we're going into a community and we're saying, hey, we want to hear this story. And this is back to that unlearning external narratives. And if we can present here now what we're going to say, surely we're just doing that. So I would say have faith in a new way of storytelling, take a risk, be bold with your decision, and let's see what happens, because I can tell you whatever it's going to be is going to be really exciting and something different.
There is, so I'm going to ask you one last question. There's a question from the audience about where you can vote. We promise we're going to give you all of that information in just a little bit. But Beki, I want to ask you one last question before we wrap up this Q&A, which is, you've mentioned that this is part of a series. And so I want to ask, what is it about this particular story and Nkate that makes it the first story that you want to help create in this series?
Of course, yeah. I mean, as you'll both know, we've sort of looked at lots of different options of storytellers. I've managed to travel the world and meet some incredible people. For me, I think it's twofold. Obviously, being a very female-led organization like yourselves, and Nkate's story really resonated. She is all about female empowerment. And she wants to be a leader and be seen to be a leader because she believes she can do something different than, as she would say, the military men with guns. So I think at the heart of what she wants to do and who she is, it really fits with Hidden Compass. But I think also Nkate and the Black Mambas, their attitude is about transforming mindset. They want to change attitudes.
Then tell me.
I don't know.
It's okay. They want to change attitudes at community level, as she says, to stop would-be poachers before they even pick up the gun. And I think that's what this project is about. It's about transforming mindset in how we tell stories. So it just felt really relevant to be working with Nkate and the Black Mambas as a first film.
I think that's great. Siv, I don't know if you saw, but we have someone else who is attempting to join from Nepal. So I just wanted to point that out. Tulsi, we see that you were attempting to connect, and congratulations. Hang on for just a second, because we're in Q&A with the other team. But that's, if you can hang on to your connection, we'll circle back and maybe open up for some Q&A with your team.
Hey, there she is.
Sounds good. Thank you, Sabine.
Fantastic. Great. I actually, Savani said that she had one more question for you, Beki, but I'm going to ask a question for Nkate about hope. Nkate, what is your hope for what this film does in or for your community? And Beki, I'll let you facilitate her answer.
You have to bear with me. It's a big technical thing for nearly 3 a.m. Right, bear with me. Let's see.
We believe in you, Beki. There we go.
Okay, we got the screen. So I just want to caveat this with, Nkate uses a lot of the words. She keeps referring to being a female filmmaker, and I think the female-led idea of Hidden Compass is sort of understood, really kind of resonated with her. But I'll explain. Yes, when she says female filmmaker, she just means only filmmaker. So hopefully you're hearing.
I am so excited to be part of the filmmaker and also to inspire to all women, to the whole people here in Hluvukani, because so many things that we've seen is from foreign people, most especially the media is from foreign people. But now they'll be so happy and so proud of me because I'll be the first female here in Hluvukani to be a filmmaker. And I know that there will be lots of questions to ask after. And I know that so many people, they will be want to be part of it after. So I'm so proud of it and I'm so happy and I can't wait to do it. So at least here in Hluvukani, they will be having one lady who she is a filmmaker. Thank you.
I would like to also just add to after a few of other conversations that I've had with Nkate, and for her it is to, I think she used the words, to have people like that in my world. And what she meant was to have a filmmaker in her community, in her world. It sort of has never even been contemplated to her. Filmmakers come from abroad, they come from outside, they come in, they make their films. And so for her to be proud to say we can make films where it's not just the British or the American or whoever it might be who comes in. So for her, that's what she is really excited about.